I threw a child's jar of peanut butter into the river. I was working at this summer camp for kids with severe food allergies. We're talking life-threatening stuff here. One tiny exposure and some of these kids could literally die. I'd been there for 3 weeks and thought I knew all the safety protocols. Check every single food item that comes into camp. Read labels twice. Keep emergency meds within arm's reach at all times. The works. This one kid, Trevor, had the worst peanut allergy I'd ever seen. His mom dropped him off with a literal binder of instructions. She made me read through every page while she watched. No peanuts, no tree nuts, nothing that was even processed in the same facility. She left 3 EpiPens with me and made me promise to call 911 if he so much as sneezed funny. Everything was going fine until this new counselor named Beth showed up on week 4. She seemed nice enough, early 20s, super bubbly, but she had this habit of not listening when people talked to her about important stuff. On her second day, I saw her pulling snacks out of her backpack during lunch. I walked over to check what she had, and my blood ran cold. She was unwrapping a peanut butter sandwich right next to where Trevor was sitting. I practically lunged across the table and grabbed it out of her hands. "What are you doing? Trevor's allergic to peanuts." She looked at me like I was overreacting. "Oh, it's fine. I'm not giving it to him. I'm just eating it myself." I tried explaining that wasn't how allergies work, that even the smell or tiny particles in the air could trigger a reaction. She rolled her eyes and said she'd be more careful next time. But the next day, she did it again. This time, she had a jar of Jif and was making herself a sandwich right at the snack table where all the kids got their food. I told her again, more firmly this time, that she absolutely could not have peanut products anywhere near the dining area. She got defensive and said I was being dramatic, that she'd been around kids with allergies before and it was never that serious. I reported her to the camp director, but he just gave her a gentle talking to about following food safety rules. She nodded and promised to be more careful, but I could tell she thought we were all being ridiculous. The third incident happened during arts and crafts. I was helping some kids with their projects when I heard this weird wheezing sound coming from across the room. I looked over and Trevor was clutching his throat, his face turning red. I ran over and saw Beth had been making some kind of craft with peanut butter, spreading it on pine cones to make bird feeders. She'd been doing it right at the same table where Trevor was working on his drawing. I grabbed the EpiPen from my pocket and jabbed it into Trevor's thigh while screaming for someone to call 911. The ambulance got there in about 10 minutes, and thank God, Trevor was okay. But it was the scariest 10 minutes of my life watching this 8-year-old kid struggle to breathe. Beth kept saying she had no idea how this happened, that she was being so careful. But I saw the truth. She just didn't believe the allergy was that serious. She thought we were all being overdramatic. The camp director finally fired her after the ambulance left. But before she packed up her stuff, I watched her grab that same jar of peanut butter and toss it in her bag, probably planning to take it home. That's when something snapped in me. I followed her out to the parking lot and asked if I could talk to her for a second. She was loading her car, still acting like the whole thing was some big misunderstanding. "Can I see that peanut butter jar?" I asked. She pulled it out of her bag, confused. "Why?" I snatched it out of her hands and walked straight to the riverbank behind the camp. She followed me, asking what I was doing. Without saying a word, I hurled that jar as hard as I could into the water. It made this satisfying splash and disappeared under the surface. She started yelling at me about how that was her property and I had no right, but I just stared at her and said, "You almost killed a kid today because you couldn't be bothered to take his allergy seriously. That jar of peanut butter is never coming back to this camp." She got in her car and peeled out, still screaming about how crazy I was. The camp director saw the whole thing from his office window. I thought for sure I was going to get fired too. But when I went to talk to him, he just shook his head and said, "I should have done that myself 3 days ago." Trevor came back to camp the next week with a new inhaler and even more detailed instructions from his mom. But he was okay, and that's all that mattered.